What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Portal's moving, man. You got names coming in, names coming out. It is a lot of action. We got good news. We got bad news. We got everything in between. We will keep you up to date with the absolute latest on the portal here live on Friday. It's a beautiful day, a lot of action, a lot to get to. First, I want to talk about some folks that you always know where they're going to be. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in. A lot to catch up on here.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the almost 300 live with us already. And remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Obviously, the breaking news within the hour here, Riley Williams entering the portal, D.
Yeah, unfortunate. I've always been a big fan of the prospect, the talent. This is a big player from Portland, Oregon. He played in line this year, did a really nice job blocking. He came up as a receiving tight end, so he has that ability as well. Saw a flash of what he can do after the catch against Virginia Tech with that little shovel pass from Cam Ward. And this guy was a guy who got a lot of snaps on the best offense in the country. Now, we didn't see it all come together. Only at about 100 yards, 6 catches, 7 catches. So we didn't see the full ability that he has as the feature tight end. Hoping to see it the following year in 2025. But of course, he moves on. Don't want to say too much as still kind of digging. I don't want to get too ahead, but I will say this is something that has been on the radar, both with people like me and of course with the staff, for a few weeks now. And I was hoping it would work out. Ultimately didn't. I don't believe this is a football necessarily situation. Miami was active in the portal, the early stages, as far as looking at tight ends that had the ability to play here. I know the tight end from Purdue was someone that Miami looked at and tried to get on campus. So I expect Miami to continue to be active in the tight end market. They were before, even if it didn't seem obvious at the time. But look, this is a guy that can play, man. So it's not, it's to me, it's a loss. This is a player that was going to have a big role next year. Of course, you do have other players with a lot of talent, including Elijah Lofton, Brock Schott coming in, Luka Gilbert. But you don't like to lose talented guys. So it's unfortunate as part of the portal. A lot of these situations you don't even hear about because they get solved. This was one that's just not, it just didn't work out. You wish for the best for Riley Williams. I'd expect him probably to head a little further west for his next stop, but we'll see. But I think he'll have interest in the portal because he's a very talented player.
Yeah, I think the thing with him too, D, is I'm a huge Elijah Lofton fan, but completely different body type there. So you're going to need to bring in probably someone who, number one, has been around for a couple years and has been productive at another stop, but it's a body type you're looking for, right? I think Lofton can replace a lot of production at that position, but he's 6'6", and he's a mismatch guy. He's a guy who can play running back, as we've talked about at length. He's a guy who has played fullback, H-back, lined up in the slot, do a bunch of different things, but completely different skill set to what Riley Williams brought to the table. So super excited about him, but without a doubt, to me, you're going to need to go get one at least in the portal at tight end now.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bigger body type, right? You have guys that you feel good about that can be that H-backs, that flex, but you're going to need a bigger body type. And probably not at this point with Riley. I thought before you need a Cam McCormick replacement, but now you're going to need a Riley Williams replacement because you're losing Arroyo as well. So you need somebody that can catch and block, someone with some length. And it's, those guys are not that easy to come by. You do see a lot of tight ends at the lower levels move up. Ole Miss has been getting guys like that. So we'll see who becomes available here through the rest of the portal period and then after the spring. But, not good news for the Hurricanes at that particular position. But I want to emphasize, because people are asking in the comments already, this is not something that is a blindside situation. Again, I can't discuss everything going on, but it's unfortunate, and you wish him the best because I'm a big fan of the talent, a guy, inline guy that can move. Martin Dubé asking D-Money, did you hint that Riley Williams would not be here sometime back? Not that he wouldn't be here because this was a fluid situation, but that, Miami was looking for potentially an every down tight end. So that was something that they were doing. I know the Purdue tight end was one that they liked, but didn't really have interest. I don't know if it was just a fit for him, but they'll continue to look at tight ends in the portal, and they were before.
So obviously that's been the news of the day, D, but any updates on potential targets? We talked yesterday about Charles Brantley as a guy that was visiting Miami, and Miami felt like it was kind of trending potentially in their direction there. Obviously Xavier Lucas entered the portal from Wisconsin yesterday, so was wondering if you had anything on that. And then some news at TCU center, James Brockermeyer entering the portal today. And it seems like Miami could be interested there.
Yeah, so few names to note. Cornerback, defensive back in general, huge priority. You saw Zechariah Poyser commit from Jacksonville State, a huge commitment at free safety. I mentioned on the bank that Miami was looking at Adrian Wilson, the safety from Washington State, as a potential strong safety, boundary safety, somebody with a little more of a physical presence. Poyser's physical too, but he's the rangy guy of the two. So he's a guy to watch. He'll be visiting. I mentioned him on the bank, and then after that, it was reported that he would be visiting. Cornerback, huge priority. Xavier Lucas jumping in the portal. I do expect Miami to be prominently involved there, and I think most people consider Miami the favorite there. This is an elite talent, 6'2", 200 pounds, 10.5 speed in the 100. Started as a true freshman in Wisconsin. The only reason he didn't get freshman All-America because his old teammate when they were together at Deerfield Beach, O.J. Frederic, got it ahead of him. But this is a big-time player. If you get him, you put him next to O.J. Frederic, you have the best young corners in the ACC, maybe in the whole country. That's an elite pairing of true sophomores. If you can make that happen, I think Miami is the favorite to do so. Charles Brantley, who I mentioned again in the bank yesterday, he has now arrived on campus as the Michigan State corner. He's from Venice, played at Venice High School, was a really good player there, goes on to Michigan State, 4-year careers, flirted with the portal a little bit, and ultimately never entered he's entered, but he's gone back. He's never been, he stayed at Michigan State. Now he is on campus visiting Miami. It looks like it's going to be Miami or Illinois. I think Miami's got a great shot if they can close on this visit here. That's a veteran player in Charles Brantley, one of the higher graded players according to Pro Football Focus in the country, an experienced guy, instant upgrade to what we've had in the secondary. Add a Charles Brantley. I've talked about Emmanuel Carnley in the past, who visited last week, the long, very talented corner from Arizona, sort of an upside play. New name to keep an eye on is Andrew Marshall, a cornerback out of Idaho. This is somebody who even went to Idaho, but he has film against Oregon, and he's become a very hot name in the portal. All-sky player as a sophomore, 45 tackles, 3 PBUs, forced fumble recovery. The Pro Football Focus grades are really high. California kid. This is a guy that really shined again against Oregon. Was guarding Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, did a really nice job. But he's going to visit this weekend, and he's another name to watch. I think Miami is trying to clearly upgrade its defensive backfield because it's a huge position of need to anybody that watched Miami this season. And now you're seeing the work that's been done ahead of time when it was a little quiet. You're seeing the results of that with some of the names that are on campus.
Andrew Marshall just coming off a Nebraska visit a couple days ago.
Yeah. So by the way, like and subscribe to the show. Got over 1,000 already. We're rocking and rolling, man. A lot to talk about here. One thing you mentioned, Pete, that I want to get to. By the way, we got questions in here. Go ahead and ask your questions. Well, I'll try to get to them. One thing I want to mention, James Brockermeyer, who you talked about, from Texas Christian. He originally signed with Alabama. The Brockermeyer family, big family of athletes, football players. Dad was a big-time lineman, I believe, from Texas. He's involved in the media. Had 2 brothers go to Alabama. One is medically retired. James Brockermeyer played sparingly at Alabama, although he was a big recruit. Transfers to Texas Christian, starting center, all Big 12 honorable mention. And he just entered the portal. He's someone I think Miami would have their eyes on. You saw some talk on the forum, basically hinting that the TCU people felt Miami was a destination. I mentioned on the bank yesterday, Miami would be looking to add a starting center. So I think Brockermeyer is a name for everybody to know. Graded out much higher as a pass blocker than a run blocker. One of the top pass blocking centers in the country. Run blocking, he's going to have to work on that at the University of Miami. But obviously, for Miami to potentially add this player, Mirabal feels good about the fit in the system. So keep an eye on Brockermeyer as your potential center of the future for the Miami Hurricanes. I believe he has 2 years of eligibility.
So see if there's any comment. Javier Boy says, it doesn't seem like we were developing tight ends. Arroyo had a good year, but he was already good. Just came off injury. 2 years in a row, we lose a tight end.
I mean, Skinner, that was just bad eval. I don't know if it was development. He hasn't done anything.
He hasn't done anything at Louisville either.
Yeah.
I think he entered the portal again.
Yeah, he did. Arroyo, I don't think, Arroyo really to me was a developmental guy. Everybody liked Arroyo. I always liked him. I liked him since high school. But to be a potential first-round player that he is, I believe that was the product of some development. And Riley Williams, while he was here, did develop. He was a receiving tight end in high school, ended up being basically like a blocking specialist on the number one offense in the country, one of the best run offenses in the country. So I think he developed in that way. I would hope to see the whole product of it next year. But for a multitude of reasons, I think it didn't work out, and he's moving on, and Miami's moving quickly to replace him.
I mean, look, Arroyo was injured plenty before this year, but he had 11 receptions before this season. So I think it's injured or not, you still got to go out there and show it. So I think he would say he was developed over the last few years here.
Yeah. So, and Coach Whittle is the guy I've heard is a great coach. One of the better coaches on staff, recruiting and developing, and just hard worker. Miami had great production on the tight ends this year, and they played a lot of them. So
and a talented duo coming in. And it's not like it's, by the way, guys, we always want to have veteran guys coming back and leading the position, but tight end, it's not like tight end is a position where a freshman can't get on the field and make an impact early.
Yeah, you saw Elijah Lofton do it, but I think really it's going to be about the portal to get an inline body type. To replace that kind of body type, you need it.
I just, I discount sometimes the young interior lineman. I've been excited about an Artavis Jones, a Justin Scott, but I wasn't expecting them to be guys we relied on this year. Like, I think you can eventually rely on these guys, once we see them here and as they get comfortable.
Yep. By the way, some more news just came out. So we talked about yesterday, David Blay, the defensive tackle from Louisiana Tech, 6'4", 303, late blooming player from the Philadelphia area, goes to a very small school, blows up there, has a growth spurt, I believe. He was listed at 6'2" in high school, spurts up, ends up going to Louisiana Tech, develops a little bit there, then really dominates this season, first team all conference. And he also, when you watch the Arkansas game, which is SEC opponent, I've seen clips of it. I haven't sat down and watched the whole game. But from people who really broke that tape down, they said he was the best player on the field. A lot of connections between Louisiana Tech staff and Miami staff. So the word on this guy, David Blay, is NFL type player, late bloomer, guy you want to catch on the upswing. Anyways, he visited Penn State. He visited Miami this past weekend. I believe he's finishing up the visit now. And Kane Sport just talked to his coach, and his coach basically said, loved, or a source, I don't know if it's a coach or agent or what, but basically the saying loves it a lot. They love him. He loves them. Everybody was great to him. It's hard to even put into words. Decision should be coming really soon.
That would be a huge get, because I know Miami, it's not like they felt like they weren't in that race, but they knew that was going to be a tough battle. And I think he's a legitimate impact type of guy next year.
Yep. And I really believe when it comes to D-line, we've been plugging holes for 2 years. That first D-line was patchwork from the portal. Second D-line, same thing. This, and really the third D-line, you had a little bit more development, but you added a Barrow, you added Barron. You didn't recruit great D tackles your first couple of years here. So now you did have the great defensive line group last year with Justin Scott, guys like that, Armando Blunt. You had Horton and Moten now developed. Moten's already contributing and playing well. Horton, from what I hear, is really coming along and has been healthier. So you want those guys to play. And a guy like Blay is a premium player that's going to potentially make the NFL that you can plug in there without, taking too many spots, just one player with the young players around him. Now you got the body types that you want at defensive tackle. He, again, like I said, 6'4", 303. He was playing 3 flex last year, 46 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks against Arkansas, the game I mentioned, 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack. So good words coming out of the visit. We'll see how it goes. I know Miami is a very, very high grade on David Blay. That would be a big get.
The Javier boy is mentioning the guys who have hit the portal for Mario's 2023 class, and here's Alyss, Robbie Washington, Riley Williams, Jaden Wayne, Collins Achampong, Chris Johnson, Caleb Spencer, Marcellus Pulliam, Demetrius Freeney, and Antonio Tripp. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Turnovers, unfortunately, a lot more common in this portal era. So that's not something that's uncommon around the country. I mean, I think that's going to be on the higher end probably than what you want. I haven't crunched the numbers, but I'm assuming it's on the other end. I think you got to so you need to do better than that. I think when I've seen the attrition in some of these classes, I'm starting to think these classes might be judged. And this is not a Mario specific thing. We've not done retrospectives on some of these classes in the portal era because the portal era is so new. And I'm curious, and this is not just Miami, across the country, when you go back and look at these classes and you stack them, is it going to be like classes that had a lot of really good players that played for you a lot? Or is it going to be classes that had, 2 or 3 first rounders or, 3 or 4 real true impact guys? Because there is so much attrition with the portal here. But at the same time, a lot of the best players, look at Georgia, the number 11, Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, what's his name, Michael Williams. Those guys were guys they signed and developed, even as they did lose other players. So a lot of the premium frontline guys, you do, especially at certain positions like D tackle, D end, corner, you do still get in recruiting. Wide receivers, a little bit of a mix. So you got to get those guys in your recruiting class. And I wonder if attrition going forward is just going to be part of it. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn because I really want to crunch the numbers and see what's normal attrition in the portal era, what's not, because it's a moving target. We've only had a few portal classes and it gets worse every year. So it'll be interesting to watch. I know that 23 class had Francis Mauano, who's going to be a first-round pick, possibly top 10 pick. Ruben Bain could be a first-round pick, depending on how he bounces back from these injuries. Mark Fletcher is a key part of your team right now. So.
And then I think a lot of it's judged on like what happens if those guys leave and do something at another school. Like it's kind of like a negative mark on you in a sense there that you couldn't get it out of them here. But sometimes guys need different change of scenery to get the best out of them, whether that's a Miami thing or just a personal thing. I think it's a case-by-case basis. But I mean, I would like to have, just look at this list right now, I'd like to have Caleb Spencer on this team right now. Yeah, that's for sure. Chris Johnson, I'm still hopeful for him, and I think SMU is a good spot for him. Jaden Wayne at Washington, I think he could be a pretty solid player, and then we'll see these other guys. But Caleb Spencer for sure off the top there.
Yeah, and I like Caleb Spencer really could have helped us, and I like Riley Williams.
I like Riley Williams.
I think that was someone I was hoping would blow up next year and really make this class look a lot stronger. Tough to lose them. Tough to get guys from Portland, Oregon to Miami. I know my dad did it 30 years ago, probably more than that, 36 years, 45 years ago. He's still here, but it's not common. So, it's a culture shock for a lot of people. Unfortunately, it is what it is. We'll miss Riley Williams. I thought he was a good player. His grandpa was always a staple on these shows.
Man, hopefully Grandpa Jim, man. Hopefully you stand around, man. You stay around with us.
Yeah, we'll miss your Grandpa Jim. But anyway, so this is college football in 2024. I'm giving you names that are on campus that some other team had them. Our guys are jumping into, and there's people are tampering with our players. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. You just gotta. I've learned, particularly last year, to judge the talent of the class or of the team, the roster in July, because it changes until then. You look at last year's team, right? You had Cam Ward at this point last year was a different story every day. Ultimately commits to the NFL in early January. I think it was on New Year's Day. Comes to Miami right before the classes open. So that was not a done deal at this point. Martinez wasn't here. Carpenter may have been just starting to come on. I don't know when he committed. Simeon Barrow was not here. Tyler Barron. Excuse me. So there's a lot of, and some of our guys left as well. So there's a lot of changes to the roster still to come. Just got to see how it looks when the dust settles. I can tell you where I feel good with Miami's class right now, or Miami's roster right now, is that there's enough lines in the water in the secondary that position should be improved.
We're getting a lot of like comments about tampering. Like Kyle's asking, was Riley Williams a tamper issue or a homesick issue? Man, the tampering thing is such a gray area for me, because with the agents, man, there's such a like is there if a kid wants to leave or is thinking about leaving, like word's gonna get out, and I'm not gonna always put that on another school.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it in this era.
Yeah, I mean, agents have changed it a little bit.
Yeah,
and the agents are the ones oftentimes doing the shopping. So that most of the time is how it is. These kids are trying to focus on going to class and playing football, and the coaches are got to worry about a lot of other things. But the agents really kind of grease the wheels on this process. And look, it's a two-way street as far as guys jumping in the portal, guys getting on your team.
And I'm not saying that was the situation with Riley Williams here, but I'm just saying in general, like everyone seems to be upset about the tampering stuff, and I think, look, if a guy wants to move, he's going to move. He doesn't need to sit there and wait for another school to reach out to him in one form or fashion.
Yep. So people, switching gears here to get your questions. I want to get to the questions, so go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I want to switch gears real quick to high school, because I saw a player last week. I didn't talk about him, and I want to make sure I get to him today here on Friday. And this is our Beacon Adjusters prospect of the week. And that is going to be a 2026 player, but an important one. That's quarterback Darion Coleman from Orlando Jones. Here's his senior highlights: almost 3,500 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, 4 INTs. He put out his final senior highlights. This is the game I was at last week. You see him running for a touchdown here against American Heritage in Pitbull Stadium. Every time you get a first down in that stadium, they say "Dale." But here you see the player. Great year, undefeated until the championship against American Heritage. He played pretty good in that game as well. Was running more than throwing in that game. That's basically how they played him, and they gave him lanes up the middle. There you go. There's another touchdown from that American Heritage game. Not a running quarterback, though. Definitely a guy that's going to sit in the pocket and distribute. He tried to sit in the pocket against Heritage, but Heritage's front was a lot stronger than Orlando Jones's front. So a lot of pressure being pushed into his face. He stood tall. He took hits. I don't think physical toughness is going to be an issue. There you see the elusiveness with him. Size is going to be the big thing with him. He's about Bryce Young's size when you see him in person. Obviously, Bryce Young's developed for a few years to get at least a little bit stronger, but that's what you're looking at with the Darion Coleman. He does have extremely long arms, and he has big hands, so that helps overcome some of the size limitations. And as you watch the film, I mean, this guy can make some unbelievable throws, different arm angles. A lot of people compare him to Cam Ward, both in demeanor, the way he throws the ball. I know his quarterback coach, Balin Trujillo, is a big Canes fan, and his coach, Darion, says he was a young pup. He compares him a lot to Cam Ward. Just seeing his demeanor, here's another running touchdown from the American Heritage game. I mean, he really made a lot of plays with his legs in this game. Just seeing his demeanor, he's a steady guy. He's very confident. He's tough. Everything I saw from an intangible standpoint was good. He's definitely not a run-first quarterback. He looks to throw, as you see here, scrambling right and then letting it rip. The arm looked good. Very handsy thrower, meaning he grips the ball strong with his hands. He runs around with one hand on the ball and just is able to control it that way, despite not being the biggest guy. Can drill it. He can layer the ball as well. He's a natural passer. Really good on these deep throws. With him, it's just gaining the weight and really mastering the playbook, which at the high school level, he knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball. But when you get to the college level, he can't be someone that's always improvising because of his size. And he's a good athlete. He ran for a lot of yards against Heritage, but I wouldn't say he's like a great runaround athlete. He will need to be very similar to Bryce Young in his play style. And he's someone I know Canes coaches are excited about. People in the area say he's the real deal, and he led Orlando Jones to a very, very special season before coming up short against Heritage in a game that was really a shootout that Malachi Toney, the other Canes commit on the other side playing quarterback, was able to win out. But I was impressed seeing him in person. Size is not what you want, but plenty of arm, good demeanor, and has a chance to be a really good player.
Assad Hussein's asking a question, and I was actually going to make this comment. He's asking if Darion Coleman's a guy that 26 receiver recruits want to play with, and he definitely strikes me as that sort of guy with his demeanor, his confidence, from what we've heard, and it's pretty evident with the way he plays that he's someone that guys would want to play with.
Yeah, I've heard that he is exactly what you said, Pete. Just his demeanor and the way he carries himself. Also that he's the kind of guy to hold people accountable. He played with Vernell Brown, who's one of the best receivers in the country for class of 25. Also Larry Miles, who will be a good receiver in the class of 26. So he's had some really good receivers. And from what I understand, he runs that show. He's not someone that's going to cower to dominant personalities at receiver. He's like Cam Ward. He runs the offense. He runs the huddle. So excited to see his development. You hope just to see him grow just a little bit. He's never going to be, Cam Newton, right, or Joe Flacco, but he's somebody that does overcome the lack of ideal size with strong hands, long arms, and just great natural passing ability. Comp would be Bryce Young, size-wise, style of play. He does throw it a lot like Cam Ward with the different angles.
Bagging up says, well, we have the Lagway effect of pulling in 3 5-star receivers in one class.
I don't know about that, but there's some pretty good ones that we're after, starting with Calvin Russell from Northwestern, which is a Miami Hurricane legacy. His mom is in the Hall of Fame as a basketball player. He is the best player in South Florida, going to be a 5-star player based on the current rankings. And then also Brandon Bennett, another top 100 player from American Heritage. In the game I went to with Darion Coleman against Heritage, he returned a kick for a touchdown. Really, really fast. Probably more of a speedster than a receiver at the moment, but he's also someone that I think Miami will be after just because the speed he has track-wise, football-wise, is so rare. So that's the Beacon Adjusters Player of the Week, Prospect of the Week. If your property has been affected by Hurricane Helene or Milton, Beacon Adjusters Group is here to help. With years of experience handling storm-related damage, we work tirelessly to ensure you get the compensation you deserve. From assessment to settlement, our team of trusted experts will guide you every step of the way. Don't face the aftermath alone. Let Beacon Adjusters Group restore your peace of mind. Call us today. That's 954-466-4224, 954-466-4224. That's Beacon Adjusters. Doesn't have to be a hurricane. Storm damage. You could be in California. You could be in Miami, anywhere in between. Dial Beacon Adjusters 954-466-4224.
All right. Anyway, and back, real quick on the Lagway thing too. You also have the fact that Lagway played for the second half of the season there, and he's going to be the starting quarterback going into it. So remember, it's the class after that's really having the effect on it.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see where it goes. But I like to see these guys in person, see what I can pick up. And with Coleman, demeanor, arm, all good. Size, I'd seen him at a camp, so I knew he wasn't the biggest guy in the world. He's not super short. He probably is about 6 foot tall, and the arms are super long, and his hands are very strong. But yeah, he's going to need to bulk up because there were times where the rush got pushed into his face a little bit, and he stood tall. He definitely doesn't have happy feet or doesn't go into a shell. But, that Heritage rush was getting in his face a few times, which I think inhibited his ability to go downfield as much as he liked.
A lot of questions about Kevin Concepcion. He visited Miami yesterday, and he was someone that you said Miami felt like they were definitely in the picture for.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it's a good visit. I'll get more of a debrief on that visit in the time to come. It's still fresh. It just happened. There's a lot going on today, as you can see from some of these portal
There's some
entries.
talk he's going to be visiting North Carolina.
Yeah, I saw that reported that he'd visit North Carolina. There's going to be a break here where he's going to be on a no contact period where he's just going to be totally quiet over the holidays, so people aren't spending their Christmas talking to portal kids. So we'll see. That period's not over yet or has not begun yet. So we'll see if Miami can get that last word in before that closes. And if it does close, we'll see what happens when he comes out of it. But
this is why I love the chat, man. We have Kyle, who says we need some traction on portal wide receivers since we were losing our top 4. And then Eldridge Primus says, what is Miami doing? Start playing your guys that you recruit. We probably have 2 Kevin Concepcions on our team. Just got to play them. But that's why we love the chat, right? Everyone has their own opinions on the whole thing.
Like and subscribe so you can join us and you get that notification every time we go live. It's a little bit of both. The name that jumps out to me, JoJo Trader. I think he's going to have a big opportunity here in the bowl game to show who he is and what he's about. And there's no reason why he can't be a star player for us next year. That's how it's supposed to happen. You sign these top 100 players out of high school, develop them, and then they're stars when they get the opportunity, if it goes well. So I think Trader right off the top is one of those guys. Knight Carr's another one. You'd like to get up to that point. Chance Robinson had some injuries, but he was a big recruit, big body kid. Like to see what he's got. And then don't forget, coming in, Malachi Toney, I think, is going to be ready to play. I mentioned at that Heritage Orlando Jones game. He was the quarterback for the other team and playing unbelievably. He was probably the best player. Like I like to say, the best prospect in South Florida was Ben Hanks. As far as impact on high school football, wins and losses, the best player was probably Malachi Toney, the receiver from Heritage, who stepped in at quarterback when 2026 5-star Diabell got injured. Toney took over. He was a youth football quarterback. He looked like Cam Ward. I mean, he was throwing. He wasn't even running that much. And he was throwing accurately. I think it was 15 for 15 at one point. Super smart. He can step right into that slot receiver position that Restrepo's given up and produce. Dalen Upshaw went crazy. This is the receiver from Alabama, Phoenix City. He went crazy in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. He had well over 100 yards, a long touchdown catch and run. He's going to come in ready to play. And then also Josh Moore, the 6'4", 205 receiver from West Broward. I expect him to come in ready to play. He's a bigger guy. He's a hard worker, contested catch guy coming off a monster senior season for West Broward. Of course, Horton's on the way out. So I think all those guys are going to get a chance to play.
Can I mention someone, D?
Go ahead.
That if he sticks around, I really think he could be a good player here, is Shamar Kirk.
Your boy. You saw him in the
I don't
basketball
know. Look,
court.
he may be
you
a
saw him on the
portal guy.
basketball court.
I've seen him on the basketball court. I've seen him on the practice field. Like, he looks like he can play at Miami, and he's been in college now for a few years. So, like, that to me, could it be like a Devon Johnson career arc at Miami? It takes a few years. He's an older guy.
It's with the opportunities it's presented. It's very much possible.
If he sticks around, I don't know. He may enter the portal next week. I have no insight on it, but like, I think that guy can play at Miami.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of talent. He's made plays in practice and scrimmages. So another name to keep an eye on. So there's guys at receiver. You do need some veterans. Of course, CJ Daniels comes in from LSU, originally from Liberty. He's going to help you as a contested catch guy, a physically mature guy, class of 2020 kid. So he's been around college for a long time, physically mature, mentally mature, intangibles off the charts from everything I hear. He'll be the grown-up in the room. Then you'll have some young players ready to play. And I still think you need to add at least one more from the portal, whether it's Concepcion or someone else. Receivers, usually a pretty good market. There's been some really good ones on the market already. Miami got CJ Daniels. Of course, they lost Isaiah Horton. That was kind of a one-for-one replacement. We'll see what happens with Concepcion and some others. But I do expect Miami to potentially add another receiver while at the same time developing Trader, Carr, Upshaw, Toney, Moore, Kirk, perhaps. Guys that need to play, that have ability.
People asking about Isaiah Horton, I would say that ship is sailed.
Yeah, I think Horton's on his way to probably Alabama is everybody's expectation. His former quarterback is at Alabama, Ty Simpson, and he's a really good player. I think his best football's ahead of him. I think he'll do well there. I think Colby Young did pretty good when he went to Georgia. He was okay. I think Horton will be better at Alabama than Colby Young was at Georgia. I think he's more talented, and he was going in the right direction. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it work. I think Daniels maybe doesn't give you the same deep threat, which we didn't really have from Horton on the field, but we saw it in practice. It's in there with him. Daniels maybe doesn't have that, but contested catch-wise, I think Daniels might be a little ahead of Horton in that respect. Just stronger hands, better at catching it over people.
Guys, I see some comments about Riley Williams. If you're just joining the show, we broke it down at the start for, 10 minutes or so, pretty in-depth. So I know a lot of you guys are watching now on Twitter. Go over to YouTube if you want to rewind on Official Canes Insight. And remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel as well.
My man, Grandpa Jim, sorry about Riley, but when you bring in a top receiving tight end used to getting the ball and make him to a blocker 95% of the time, hope he comes home to Oregon. I mean, Oregon would be a great fit for him, obviously, from Portland. Look, you knew anytime you bring in a player with that kind of pedigree and he's playing behind other great players for a while, there's frustration. I get it. Elijah Arroyo, probably going to be a first-round pick or a second-round pick. So he had that job in a stranglehold. I'm sure Riley Williams is used to catching a lot of passes and wanted to catch more. You can understand it. This is the era we live in. He's going to have plenty of suitors because he really is a talented guy. I thought he came a long way in his blocking, which I think is going to help him overall as a player. The fact that he was such an effective inline blocker. It's one thing to be 6'6", 250 plus like he is, but he actually blocked to that size. And that's not that common in guys that are also good receiving tight ends. So I think he's got a lot of talent. I was really looking forward to watching him here this year. I am sure he will have interest in the portal. Grandpa Jim, we loved having you on the show, and wishing you guys all the best.
Grandpa Jim, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I said I hope we don't lose you as a viewer, man.
Yeah. So what do we got here? We got a lot of rumors about Ryan Williams to the portal. I don't see that. He's from Alabama. He's a superstar there. He's a social media guy too. So he'll be ballet dancing and doing all the stuff he does in Alabama, I'm pretty sure, and he's a phenomenal player. What else we got here? This Michael Rodriguez, part of the game, fellas. You win some, you lose some. I think especially in the portal era, this is what it's going to be. I hope it changed. Like, I like the portal. I like the NIL. I especially like it for what we're doing here. It makes it a lot more fun this time of year and in January. I do think eventually the portal movement will be limited to, where you get contracts that you can't just get out of every single year. I think that's where you'll see this go, maybe 2-year contracts. But that has to be collectively bargained. So you have to get to a point where the players are able to collectively bargain with whoever the powers are in college football. That's not the case right now. The settlement is very much ad hoc. I don't think it's going to change too much. There's a lot of legal issues still to figure out. And every time the NCAA goes to court, they lose. You just saw that with the Diego Pavia, which I talked about on our other endeavor, Group Chat Sports. That one opens up the doors for JUCOs to basically minor leagues where your service time doesn't run, kind of like baseball. Baseball can be in the minors forever, but you don't become a major league player with a clock and a contract until you play in the major leagues. So very interesting. A lot of changes. NCAA is going to keep losing in court until they can figure out something to do, particularly with this collective bargaining employee issue. But while I plug that Group Chat Sports thing I did, Pete, why don't you tell them about Group Chat Sports?
Let me pull it up. Hold on here.
All right. In the meantime, just checking to see if anything's new. This is the tough part of our doing shows for this portal era is that news breaks while we're live. The Xavier Lucas news was huge. That to me that's the real story going forward here in the portals. Can Miami close the deal, get Xavier Lucas? Crystal ball from Wisconsin's rider to Miami. I expect him to be in Miami as well, but you don't know until the whistle blows. He's somebody that I think you could potentially be looking at 2 high NFL draft pick corners with Frederic and Xavier Lucas. I know it's hard to project that early in their careers. We did that with guys like Leonard Taylor and all these guys, and they don't end up making it. But with these 2 very disciplined players, very physically talented, and they both produced at a high level as freshmen. Freshman All-America OJ Frederic just missed it, Xavier Lucas. And Xavier Lucas, the physical traits, I can't stress this enough, 6'2", 200 pounds. That alone is pretty big for a corner. I mean, really big. Then you factor in the fact that he's a 10.5 sprinter, and he's fluid enough to actually get it done at corner. He made a one-handed interception for Wisconsin, had a big blitz against Oregon that killed one of their drives. He can do a lot as a football player. Wisconsin fans were devastated to lose him. One Wisconsin fan said it was the worst portal departure in the history of the program on Twitter. So, big time guy.
And that's after Tyler Van Dyke just entered a couple of weeks ago.
Right. I could see, by the way, Van Dyke, I could see him at UNLV. That's a fit. That's a fit for him, I think.
Very Trask-like.
Yeah, exactly.
D, I have the page ready. So, guys, if you're looking for national coverage of transfer portal stuff, coaching movement, this is D&I's other page, Group Chat Sports. Head on over here on YouTube and everywhere else on social media. Follow us, Group Chat Sports. We go live every day here during this crazy portal time. We're going live after this when we wrap this show up. And then, I kind of cut the videos up in smaller portions. So if you're looking for something in particular, you can check out FSU's latest pickups, things of that nature. So Grandpa Jim, we got Oregon stuff here too. So hopefully you can check out our stuff over there.
That's right. I got to do Oregon stuff. Grandpa Jim, my family originally from Milwaukee, not the Wisconsin Milwaukee, the Oregon Milwaukee. I'm sure you know exactly where that is. Milwaukee High. So we'll always do some Oregon coverage. And again, with Group Chat Sports, we're trying to be your hub for transactions. That's recruiting, portal. There's going to be stuff happening every single day. So if you want to just keep track of all that stuff, plug in, and we'll keep you up to date on absolutely everything happening around the country. And of course, we're still going to be coming daily here on the show, Canes Insight Live. taking your questions. So like and subscribe here, like and subscribe there. Really appreciate your support, helping us get off the ground. You guys have been awesome in helping get our views up in people's feeds, and it's been going a lot faster than I expected, doing no small part to you guys and everything you guys do. So truly, truly appreciate it. By this, this is kind of a plug, but I actually just want to talk about it because I think it's worth talking about. I've been doing a show called Storm Sessions, which is with the University of Miami, official show. I do it right where Mario Cristobal does the Cristobal show and all those other things. And that's on the official channel. It's got its own podcast on Apple and Spotify, Storm Sessions. Sit down interviews, 30 minutes, 40 minutes with some current players, all sports, but obviously football is big now. Last week, did an interview with Mark Fletcher, which was incredible. Just such a great kid. Talked about losing his father and just all the things that he's been through. And he's so positive. He's exactly what you want as a Hurricane. Tough as nails as well. Today, I recorded right before I came here an interview with Jordan Lyle, who was also awesome. Just a great, great interview. Driven to be the best running back of all time and working hard. He's been waking up at 5 a.m. every day to run since he was a little kid. Running with his pit bull, running with his dad, doing ladder drills. Living a different life than I lived as a kid in terms of the focus. So I really, doing those two back to back, seeing how big these guys are and seeing how much energy they have and juice and love for the game of football, we are really going to have an incredible backfield next year with Lyle, with Fletcher. Interesting to see what Pringle does. Hope those guys stay healthy. But if they do, that's going to be a really, really, really dynamic backfield. And I think no matter who the quarterback is, no matter how high profile or not, I think the running game is going to be a big part of what the Miami Hurricanes do next year. It was this year as well. It was one of the top running games in the country as far as yards per attempt. Number one in the ACC, would have been number one in the SEC, would have been number one in the Big Ten. But in terms of attempts, this was very much a pass-happy team. Of course, you had the best passer in the country. You passed the ball. This was, I think, in terms of run play percentage, we're like in the hundreds. We really passed it quite a bit. So I'm curious to see how that ratio shifts from where it's like 55% pass to if it gets closer to me like 52-48, because we got running backs that can really, really go.
We have people asking about Damian Martinez. I think it's a very deep class, but he was kind of set on this being a one and done year at Miami. Would Miami like to have him back? Of course, why not? He's a heck of a back. He's one of the best in the country. But we'll see. I put that at still a pretty small percentage chance he's back at Miami.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jordan Lyle's going to be the star of the show next year, and Fletcher's going to do what he does, which is be just a tremendous winning player, one of the best football players, in my opinion, overall in the conference. When you talk about running, blocking, just being a beast. So those two, I think, will run the show. Pringle will be your speed back with Martinez. He was great for us. I would just go pro if I was him, probably just because you only have so many carries in your body when you run that physical style. He had 3 seasons that were very consistent in play. I don't see, anything different. Like if you look at his stats,
he didn't necessarily hurt himself in terms of his stock. He's fine. It's just a deep class. He'll get drafted probably later rounds. But at his position, you get in the league, you go produce for a couple of years, and you get to your second contract.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Just to give you an example. So Gus Edwards, who I think is somewhat of a comparable player to Martinez in terms of just size, speed, running style. I think Martinez is actually a more physical runner, at least in high school, than Gus Edwards was. But he's made some money over his career. He's made, this year he's making $3.375 million. Last year he made about the same. His career earnings, $16.8 million for Gus Edwards. So for those of us who watch Gus Edwards struggling to get on the field here in Miami, if you said, hey, this guy's going to make $16.8 million playing professional football plus the pension, that's a heck of a career. And he was undrafted and did not perform nearly as well as Damian Martinez did in college. So if I'm Damian Martinez, I probably just go pro and then have Lyle and Fletcher run the show, and then Pringle doing his thing. What was this question, by the way? Does Anthony Manzano listen to the show on Wednesdays? He's asking, D-Money Pete, are you guys wrestling fans? And if you are, did you see that Rey Mysterio Sr., Rey Mysterio's uncle, passed away? Yeah, Anthony, we're definitely. I'm a huge wrestling fan. So is Mike Ryan, who joins us on Wednesday. We have a whole wrestling segment at the end of the Canes Inside Lives on Wednesdays, usually around the 1 hour and 30-minute mark. It's all wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, Anthony, check out that show on Wednesdays. We go live, and that's usually the last segment of the show. But yeah, R.I.P. Rey Mysterio Sr., Rey Mysterio Jr., probably the best luchador of all time, one of the best pound for pound of all time, probably the best little guy ever to be in the sport. His mask is everywhere. You go to Mexico, that thing is all over the place.
Sorry, I can't provide any any additional commentary there.
So what's Kyle saying? D-Money wishing Lyle as RB1 into existence. I don't think I'm wishing into existence. I think it's probably going to happen.
I've heard similar stuff from people inside.
And when I say RB1, Fletcher is going to be Fletcher. I mean, he's not going to take a step back in any way. Yeah, just mean, Lyle was the one of those three that had the lesser role this past year. So his role is the one that would increase. Fletcher's still going to have a huge role in this team. 5.4 yards per carry, extremely physical, was a dominant player in short yardage. Our best pass blocker to me by far. He's only going to get better. I find him, I think Fletcher, if you talk about football players, because people look at Fletcher as a runner and they say, he doesn't have the jukes. He's not the most fluid guy. He's just kind of straight ahead. But if you look at Fletcher as a football player, like an Alonzo Highsmith, who's a runner, who can play fullback and lead block, like Fletcher did lead block for Martinez a few times and buried people. I think Fletcher is one of the best overall football players on the team. Like Fletcher, guys like Elijah Lofton, those to me are elite football players. They could probably play at multiple spots on the team on the field. And happy to have him here in the Canes. Anthony's asking, if we're going after James Brockermeyer in the portal, are we going after him as a tackle, guard, or center? Brockermeyer, so it's just so you know, I think Brockermeyer is like a show on TV. It's Brockermeyer if you're looking for his Brockermeyer, his from that Brockermeyer family. He is going to be a center. He's a center now, and I believe that's his position. I don't think he's the tallest guy in the world. He's like 6'3", so he'll be a center going forward. His brother was a tackle, but his brother's medically retired. We got some Seminole fans in the chat, and 850 says, I can't imagine sitting there watching a whole Florida State podcast. These Seminole fans are weird. We welcome the Seminole fans to view in the show. Our show is probably a lot better than those shows, so you're better off watching this one. All right, we got over 2,000. Remember to like and subscribe. Get your questions in. What do we got? What do we got coming up here? So, Arab asking, they got staff changes update. Nothing. I mean, they're practicing to play a bowl game and to win it. You did have Coach Pata, Coach Hippolyte going to FIU. These are assistant coaches, not full position coaches, but valuable assistant coaches, local guys. Pat is going to be the offensive line coach at FIU under Willie Simmons, and Hippolyte will be the running back coach under Willie Simmons. So these are promotions, guys who deserve them, guys, people in the building are excited about, and they are staying through the bowl with their guys here in Miami. So as clean a transition as you can hope for someone on your staff where they get promoted, they stay through the end, and you wish them well. Good news when your guys are getting promoted. That means you got good guys in the building.
26 says Gabby saying Brantley has a lower extremity issue. Any info on if that affects us pursuing him?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's here right now, so that's one thing to keep in mind. If it was a total, he wouldn't be here if there was no interest. Now, at the same time, you go in with your eyes open, you figure it out. I know, just to give you an example of how this works sometimes, Tyler Barron had a pretty bad shoulder injury coming in, and we knew about it. We evaluated and determined it was going to be fine, and it was fine. So, as long as you have your eyes open and you monitor situations and you make decisions like that, you're okay. We'll see where it goes. He's on campus right now. So more questions here. As a senior, Brantley would have come if he isn't. He would not. As a senior, would Brantley come if he isn't assured to start at cornerback? I mean, we're losing a lot of corners. I mean, Daryl Porter's gone. He played a ton of snaps for us. Jadis Richard is hurt. I don't know if you can count on him coming back right away. De'Ani Hill hasn't really broken the lineup. Damari Brown's been injured. You got guys that could potentially play safety as well. So you're losing a lot at that position. Robert Stafford's out the door, and you need players. So I don't see that being an issue. I think he's going to come in I'm sure he expects to start, and he'll compete. And his experience will probably get him to take that Daryl Porter spot. But you don't know. You don't know who's going to play nickel. Again, Xavier Lucas, if he comes in, he's going to play really good football. And we'll see. We got a question here about Purdue tight end. So
Max Clare.
Clare, right. So Max Clare is the number 1 tight end in the portal. And he is looking at Texas A&M, Michigan, and Louisville, and now Ohio State's in the mix. I mentioned that we were looking at him, when he jumped in the portal. Obviously, ultimately didn't have interest. Maybe it wasn't a culture fit. I mean, Indiana to Miami is a big transition, but that was just an example of how Miami's known that they might need a tight end 1 next year with length. Elijah Lofton is going to be a key player offensively, but they've been in this market for a minute looking for players like this. Also want to talk about Miami Hurricane Team Store as we get ready for the holidays. It is Friday, December 20th. So if you're not getting your holiday shopping done, you better hurry up. Miami Hurricane Team Store located right across the street from the University of Miami next to the Thesis Hotel. Online, MiamiHTS.com. This is all of the best in hurricane apparel retail. This is the official retail provider of the King. So if you want the official stuff, you go to the Miami Hurricane Team Store. You get the Pop-Tart Bowl stuff. If you want to get a sweater for that game, which is going to be kind of cold, get it here. Use promo code INSIDE20, get 20% off your first item. Holiday shopping for yourself, for others, winter shopping, you name it. Cam Ward youth jersey, nothing more popular than that. All the kids are wearing that one, and that one's going to be, people are going to be wearing that when he gets picked, hopefully first overall in the NFL draft. Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com.
Pulled a Pete there with the voice crack, D.
I know. I'm talking a lot today. Asad Hussein asking, is Brock shot an early entry? I believe he is. Even better opportunity to make an immediate impact with Riley transferring. That's absolutely true. And then also Luka Gilbert, I heard they're watching him as a potential early entry guy because of his size, to replace some of the inline stuff. Brock shot more similar to Elijah Lofton.
Kevin Dennis says, who's not playing the bowl game? From what we know, Xavier Estrepo, Sam Brown. Don't expect him to play. Riley Williams now, obviously.
Yeah, Riley Williams, Horton.
Elijah Arroyo, I think
he's playing.
Arroyo's playing? Okay,
yeah.
He hasn't opted out. But Riley Williams now out, so.
Yep, we'll see. I think it's, again, great opportunity for a Lofton, right? A great opportunity for a JoJo Trader. Great opportunity for a Nikar. And that's the exciting thing is you're going to see those guys, but you still get to see Cam Ward. So that's what I'm excited about. Another question about the wide receiver from LSU that committed. I talked about a little earlier, but I want to go over it again. CJ Daniels. This is a guy from the Atlanta area, not recruited that high, went to Liberty, developed there a year ago. This is 2023 with Caden Salter at quarterback. He completely exploded. 1,000 yards, almost 20 yards per catch, double-digit touchdowns, was just outstanding at Liberty. Jumped in the portal, one of the highest rated players in the portal. Goes to LSU, has a heel injury, and Brian Kelly talked about the heel injury. It was a real thing. They all talked about it. He had to get through that. His speed went down. His yards per catch went down, but was a starter for LSU. Very reliable contested catch option. Big hands, strong guy. Very good in those 50-50 situations, and a sharp route runner as well. A lot of people at LSU thought he should have gotten the ball more. The fans were not happy to see him go. The coaches weren't happy to see him go. He was a good player for them. Question is going to be the speed. Does he have the speed he had at Liberty? Or does he have the speed that he had at LSU with the injury? How much of the speed drop off was, the competition getting faster? How much was that injury, which was a legit injury that we knew about coming in? Kelly talked about talking to people. We feel good about it, but you don't really know. Worst case scenario, I think you're getting a very professional guy with great character reviews, a guy with great size, a guy that's had a lot of production, a lot of snaps, and a guy who's going to win contested catch situations to replace what you had with Isaiah Horton. Question, over under on JoJo Trader receiving yards for the bowl game. How about 50? And I'll say over. That'll be my hot take of the day, that JoJo Trader goes over 50 in the bowl game.
They've got to throw to someone.
Yep, and I think he's ready to go. So All right, fellas, appreciate you joining us. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast. We're going to do that group chat sports podcast right after, give you the latest all over the country with the portal. So please like and subscribe to that show. Even if you don't want to watch, just like and subscribe to support us. We really appreciate it. It really helps us get off the ground. And we'll be doing this all week. We don't have any days off, so we'll have to record ahead of time on Christmas. But other than that, we're going to be on the TV, on the YouTube every single day of the week. No days off for the Canes Insight Daily Podcast. Go Canes.
Go Canes.